Friday, the final day of the week. These are the voyages of the program Unsportsmanlike Conduct. Its ongoing mission to explore strange new movies, to seek out new bits and new edifications, to boldly go where no radio program has gone before. Oh, Camp's Movie Club. It's El Camp's Movie Club. El Camp's Movie Club. It's El Camp's Movie Club. All right, we're going to get off the Nebraska-Oklahoma subject.
For one segment.
So we can discuss our movie club selection this week. It's the sequel to Coming to America. It's called Coming to America.
Oh.
Coming to America. Hello, Ken.
Hello.
This, I said going into the break, they always say that, sequels very, very rarely live up to the original. And when it comes to comedy movies, it's really hard. In fact, I am trying to rack my brain before we even get into this movie, if there is a comedy movie that even comes close to approaching the original in terms of
comes close.
I mean,
because I liked Anchorman too.
I did
but
too.
It definitely wasn't anywhere.
I
near as
did
good as
too,
the
but
first. It was so weird.
Yeah, some of that, it's kind of like Airplane 2. Sometimes you can only do that shtick so much.
Mm-hmm.
Just let the original hold. But it's really hard to think of a comedy sequel that is good enough to live up to the name.
Is The Spy Who Shagged Me better than the first Austin Powers? I think it might be.
What do you think?
And then Goldmember's even kind of close, but I might like the second
they're
one.
all about the same. So yeah, I'd say it measures up. Yeah.
The other one I was going to say was Horrible Bosses 2 was pretty solid.
I never saw that one.
Okay.
But like with the Austin Powers series, the first one was more of a cult hit and then exploded on, in DVD, VHS sales. That's how far back it goes.
Yeah.
That they realized there was an audience for it, and then they made the sequels. I don't think it was ever intended to have sequels, was it?
No, but money talks.
Yeah. And BS walks.
Uh-huh.
And, among those who got paid for that was Lincoln native, now Omaha resident Matthew Sweet, who is part of the band in the Austin Power. Whatever the band's called, Matt's part of it. So
interesting.
That's funny. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
What about they're all kind of sequels. The Vacation series.
Oh,
okay.
Good call,
Like
Steve.
Christmas Vacation is
Christmas
probably the best
Vacation.
one.
I think is better than
Yeah.
just National Lampoon Vacation myself.
I would agree.
All right, that's a good call. And listener Michael just tweeted that in too. Is Christmas Vacation funnier than the original? I think it is.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so we didn't come up with a whole lot of examples.
Now I'm going to be interested to hear what everyone thinks, because Kent and I saw the original Coming to America way back when, and we've waited 30 years-ish to see the sequel. You, Josh, hadn't seen the original.
No.
So you watched them both
this week, over the last few days.
This week. And so I think I'd be curious to hear what the experience is like.
Yeah.
Because, my first reaction when I heard they were going to make a sequel was, really? We need to do this? Because it's been so long. I mean, is there still something there? And I don't know what you thought, Kent, but I'm not trying to make it sound like this is as good as the original, but I did find myself enjoying this.
Now, real quick, did you watch the original this week as well, or did you just?
No, I didn't.
So
but I've seen it enough times.
Yeah.
It's like the Blues Brothers, where you just know it. But I found myself enjoying it because there are certain things. The movie does a lot of callbacks.
Yes,
and it has a lot of cameos.
Yeah. Yes.
And you've almost found yourself waiting for the next callback or next cameo. And in a way that kind of helped move the story along, because the story is very similar to the first one, finding love, but going against the king's wishes.
Yes. And I thought it was a little flat because of that. That there wasn't anything really new to as far as the story goes, and I did enjoy some of the performances of people that weren't in the first, particularly Leslie Jones, who plays the kid's mom. So I thought she was hilarious. And how do I want to put this? This is one of the rarest movies that I always talk about. Movies don't get better. I think this movie got better as it went along because of it. And I can almost point to the point in the movie where I felt like it kind of got its footing was when he had to get the whiskers from the lion.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And he then had to deal with the daughter, and it sort of engaged there and kept going after that. Until then, it felt to me like, okay, we've got to get this in from the last movie, and we got to get this in and this in and this, right? And then it kind of caught on and got going for me. And it was enjoyable enough. And I'm not going to say it's a great movie, but it was okay.
Yeah, I really liked the first one.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, were you going to say something?
Well, go ahead, because I think we need to at least give a quick plot synopsis.
Yeah. So I really liked the original. I watched that. I think it was Wednesday night, maybe late Wednesday or early, maybe in the morning yesterday. I don't remember what it was. I really liked it. I thought that it was funny, and I had no idea really what the plot was outside of Eddie Murphy is coming to America. So I had no idea exactly where it was going to go, but I thought that one was really funny. And in a way, let's just set this up, I guess, before we get into it.
Well, so we go back to Zamunda. Eddie Murphy, the prince, his father, James Earl Jones, is dying. And there's a rival country with its leader, its military leader, played by Wesley Snipes.
Who was the other one I forgot to say I thought was really fun?
I did too.
And he was having a blast playing that role.
You could tell.
Yeah.
And once again, we're talking about an arranged marriage, similar to the first one, where to bring these two countries together, Wesley Snipes' daughter needs to marry a male heir. Well, Eddie Murphy only has daughters from his wife, who he married at the end of the first Coming to America. They discover that Eddie Murphy has a bastard son from a fling that he had.
A night that is in the original movie, the night that they're at the bar.
Yes. Where he has a fling, he has a bastard child, a son, who is living in America. So they fly to America to get the son. The son and the mother, as we mentioned, Leslie Jones, plays the son's mother, who mated with Eddie Murphy, Prince. And Tracy Morgan plays the uncle who helped raise him. And they all come back.
And so where the first one hangs out mostly in America, this one does not.
This one plays most of it in Zamunda, where now he has to go through the rituals, and that's where Kent mentioned the cutting of the whiskers and all these different things that he has to do to prove himself. Well, in the meantime, he falls in love with one of the handmaidens, right?
His hairdresser.
Hairdresser. And so kind of similar to the first movie where Eddie Murphy falls in love with a commoner and he wants to marry her. And of course, the hijinks ensue about how to work all the while. Kind of the subplot is Eddie Murphy's oldest daughter, the prince's oldest daughter, wants to and has been grooming herself to become the queen and ruler of the heir to the throne. And he being, the traditionalist, Eddie Murphy, is kind of pushing her aside, saying, no, it's got to be a male heir. And while all the while she's trying to prove, because that's kind of a side plot to everything.
So Devin tweets in and he says, might be the worst movie in the last 10 years. I definitely don't agree with that. I guess I did find it interesting for myself that I watched both of them in succession and I had never seen the first one before. And so kind of what you guys mentioned a little bit earlier, it did seem to lean on a lot of the same bits from the original, just with like, maybe it's a woman instead of a man this time, or a man instead of a woman. And honestly, the thing that I thought it was fine. I laughed a lot. The plot, I don't know, not that it lost me. It just, I wasn't really into it like I was the first one. I thought, Kent, that tried to be too serious at times instead of just funny. Like there was a lot of those, like, hey, it's time to have a heavy conversation about something. And it's not that the first one didn't have those, but it really seemed like the first one was trying more often to just be straight up funny than it was to be serious, if that makes sense. And I think that was maybe where I was a little disappointed. And it seemed to really comment on like jokes from the original one that, you know, wouldn't play in a movie today. Like, oh, hey, remember that guy? He's this and he's that. And so I thought that it was a lot of comments, I think, on the first one and maybe a little fewer jokes, and that kind of bummed me out.
My other issue with it is they tried to turn an R-rated comedy, which was really funny in part because it was R-rated,
Yes.
into a PG-13. And that took away some of the edge to it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then it felt a little repetitious early, right?
Yeah, especially
They
early.
were saying the same thing over and over and over so they could, you know, make these callback references. And if they'd have jumped into the story a little faster, I think that might have helped. But this movie is a fan movie. This is as much a fan service movie as that last Star Wars picture was.
And that's interesting you mentioned that, Kent, because similar to when the last trilogy started, how The Force Awakens had so many callbacks and plot similarities to the original Star Wars. Same thing applied here 30 years later. And so, yes, it's a fan movie, but at the same time, as Star Wars was trying to do, they were trying to reintroduce the story to a new generation. And one of the things that I thought may have not worked well with younger audiences is there were a lot of references, a lot of 80s references, and a lot of just things that you and I can't understood. You know, for example, Tracy Morgan's character calls Arsenio's Hall character Benson.
Right.
It's an insult, but that's going back to the 70s. Kent and I get that reference. Josh, I can't imagine you got that reference.
No.
Benson was a TV show on ABC where you had Robert Guillaume, who is a black butler working for the governor.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was trying to insult him. You don't get that reference.
No. Yeah.
We get that reference. So if you're trying to introduce this world to a new audience, it's kind of hard to do so with these callbacks that go completely over the head of people who are in their 20s and 30s.
I agree completely. And I wondered when I was watching it, you know, it's on Amazon Prime now. So who is the audience for this movie question doesn't come up because Amazon doesn't care, frankly. You know, they got more money than God and they can buy a movie and people will watch it. Fine. If they don't, fine. It's the same principle that Netflix operates under. But this was originally, as you saw with the stars coming up on the screen over the mountain, a Paramount picture. And Paramount actually sold it to Amazon. And I'm sitting there wondering with this, who did Paramount, they think the audience was for this movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's 30 years old. And it was an R-rated movie 30 years ago. So assuming that they stuck somewhere close to the roots of it, you know, back then close to the rating system, you probably have to be 45 and up to have seen it in the theater.
Yes, that's right.
Right? So those people don't go back to the theater anymore today, right? So my question was, who was the movie? Eddie Murphy was the biggest, hottest star in comedy.
Yeah.
You know, when Coming to America came out, you know, 30 years ago. And today he had, you know, the resurgent with Dolomite. We didn't watch that, did we?
No. I don't think so. No.
Okay. It's really good. It's on Netflix. Watch it. It's hilarious. And it was sort of Eddie's comeback, and this followed it. And it's actually directed by the guy who directed the Dolomite movie. And I thought, okay, they thought they could do something to have a bigger audience, but I don't know what that audience is. And you're hitting exactly on why. You know, it seems both dated a little bit and trying to appeal to people who have no idea what the dating's about.
Yep.
And you know what, too, Cat? Like, I thought Arsenio Hall looked like he was having a blast, and I never really got that vibe from Eddie Murphy. Whereas you watch, because, you know, since I just watched the first one, it was very fresh. He seems like he's having so much fun in the first one. And I didn't get that same perspective from him in this one, where it looked like Arsenio Hall was still having a good time.
I would say part of that's partially the case. It's interesting that there are, I guess you could say there are 2 or 3 Eddie Murphys in movies, because he can be a really good serious actor if he wants to be, and he can be this kind of madcap comic guy, like from Beverly Hills Cop movie, right?
Yep.
This kind of falls somewhere in the middle of that, and that doesn't always work real well for him, I don't think.
Okay.
I think at the end of the day, if you were a fan of the first, you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, I think so.
If you're a fan of the first,
Because I didn't hate it.
Right.
You know?
And I didn't either. Now, again, it doesn't live up to the first
and
one.
it's hard to, and a classic like that, you know.
But it was enjoyable. But I do, like Kent, I wonder, you know, if it's meant to bring new people to a genre or to a story, if it will necessarily work for them, because there are times where you just get lost in, you know, some of these references. Now there's enough, you know, there's enough contemporary stuff in there, like
it's its own story enough.
like using Trevor Noah as the
the TV interviewer.
And I thought that was a funny bit because as we know, if you watch CNN, James Earl Jones does "This is CNN," and James Earl Jones plays the king. Also does "This is CNN." Zamunda. I laughed at that. I thought
that was fun. You know, there are things like that are really, I thought, funny little things. You know,
I also enjoyed the callback to Trading Places.
Right, with the guy from Saturday Night Live,
Colin Jost.
Yeah.
Yeah, where the son tries to get a job with Duke and Duke, which was the investment firm that Eddie Murphy was working for in Trading Places, which is another great movie.
But once again, the people who are going to get that
are me and you,
are old guys.
Yep.
You know? So the one thing I did want to say is this thing looked fabulous.
Yes, it did.
Oh, it did.
Yes, it did.
The color, I mean, they really worked well on the costumes and the sets.
Yeah, it looked fabulous. The costume person was the same person who did Black Panther.
Well, really?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought it looked really good.
Yeah, it does. It pops on the screen.
Yeah.
And so it's very well made.
Yeah, especially, you know, I finished the first one and you watch this one, and I mean, it's almost like night and day, just how I mean, you can just see the technology right there alone of how much better the cameras are, the lighting, all that stuff right away.
So there it is, coming to America, which is streaming right now on Amazon Prime. Now, next Friday,
we are
right, off to the NCAA tournament, which we will be carrying here on the Zone. So it'll be 2 weeks from now when we reconvene the movie club. And I believe it is Stibbs' turn, correct?
It is indeed.
Correct. So we have a 2 week long homework assignment that does not give you permission to schedule a 4-hour movie.
I was just thinking maybe
some of us are working basketball the next 2 weeks.
I mean, maybe the next 2 weeks.
Maybe one night.
Yeah, maybe just one night, John.
No, I won't do that to you. And you'll actually love. Well, I don't know if you'll love the movie, but the runtime is an hour and like 30 minutes. So you'll love that.
Where are we going?
This says an hour 41. Netflix says it's a little bit shorter than that.
Let me guess. It's Platform 2 America.
I wish. I can't wait for that sequel. There's.
I actually liked that movie.
I know John's
did.
the only one. It's
I know
great.
you did. Actually, we did get the sequel to The Platform today. It was the news of the day, broken by Brett McMurphy. Anyway,
I saw this movie, and I know what you're thinking, but I saw it when it came out, and I truly don't remember much about it, except for that I think I liked it and that it was very weird.
Why don't you remember it?
I don't know.
I have some guesses.
I remember it. It just I don't remember exactly what happens or why.
You have some guesses, and Pete Ricketts is not for those reasons.
This is not true.
Indeed.
This is not true. The one I love, starring Elizabeth Moss and one of the Duplass brothers. I believe
Oh,
it is.
he was on The League.
He was, yes, and he was also in the Safety Not Guaranteed movie that I picked. He was the
Okay.
crazy guy.
And the Dupla. I really enjoy.
I watch anything they do. Yeah, I agree.
Sometimes they don't always hit the target, but when they miss in very interesting fashion.
Mm-hmm. And they didn't. Their production company produced this movie, but they didn't have anything to do with the writing or the direction. I don't think.
Oh, you're right. I remember this movie, and it's you boys will enjoy this.
I remember thinking it was
enjoyable
very
movie.
intriguing.
And where is it streaming?
Netflix.
Yeah.
The one I love.
The one I love.
How old is it?
2014.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So I'm sure that I am the only one here who saw the Nebraska-Oklahoma games in 70 and 71.
You were.
Well,
John's watched it a million times.
I've watched it a million times, but I was 4 months old.
Yes.
I was
and
negative 17.
And I was there, and I cried during Johnny Rogers' punt return because the whole house, who was all gathered at my place for
Oh,
Thanksgiving,
really?
went nuts.
Oh, that's
Oh yeah, I
I cried.
that was insane when that happened. So yes, this has been of high amusement to me. Where do you think that news leaked from?
Oklahoma. I think that
There's your real good guess.
and I haven't said this on the air yet, Kent, because just as I've been trying to think about how all this unfolded, here's my theory on what happened. I think that Oklahoma gave it to McMurphy to put pressure on Nebraska. It took Nebraska so long to respond because, look, that paragraph could have been written in 5 minutes. I think Nebraska might have had a soft agreement with another school and that they had to figure out what was going to happen with that before they could officially announce that they were still sticking with the Oklahoma game. There's no inside info there. That's just my guess on why there was so many hours between McMurphy's tweet and the official announcement.
You may be right, but as soon as I saw that, I said, well, Oklahoma doesn't want this Nebraska backing out of this game. What's this?
Well, it'll add another layer of spice when we get to that week.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, it may take a few layers of something to make that game competitive.
Nebraska needs to get how many fumbles did Billy Sims and Oklahoma have in 78? They're gonna need that many. 8 fumbles from Oklahoma.
Times 2.
And then 16. Stib said 16 turnovers from Oklahoma. Nebraska has a shot.
I think that would be a record of some
That
sort.
would be-
That would also be a record for number of possessions in a game.
And also,
You
it
think you have 16 possessions. That's
It would definitely be a record for a team having 16 turnovers and still winning the game
Oh,
somehow.
Stibs.
Oh, Dibs.
You're not wrong.
All right. Well, Kent, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you in 2 weeks.
Sounds good.
All right.
Enjoy the tournament.
We
Hey, you
will.
too.
Kent Walgamon of the Lincoln Journal-Star coming to America. Got an email from Ramon who said, I thought the movie's identity swung wildly between Nickelodeon Family Time and late night on HBO.
Yeah, it was weird, watching the first one, R-rated. I mean, right away. I don't know if you remember this. There's a couple of women, no shirts, essentially immediately in Coming to America.
Well,
the original.
yeah, and if you
a lot of
noticed
F-bombs throughout.
when the prince got his bath, in the first movie, the women that were giving the baths were naked. In this one, they had tops on that were made to match the skin tone.
Yeah,
but they were
so
not naked.
I assume that the thought process when creating this movie, when it was going to be in theaters, was broader audience, more people.
Sure.
If it's PG-13 versus R. But yeah, it's sometimes weird when you have those types of movies that are a part of the same family or a trilogy or whatever it is, or a sequel. And in a way, it's almost made for a completely different audience. I liked it, didn't love it.
Yeah.
I really liked the first one, though. That one, I recommend that to anyone who hasn't seen it. Stips.
We will have an update
on
the Creighton UConn game. Don't worry, they're still playing it. They're still playing
Good call. That's a good qualifier there.
They're still playing it.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of emails.
And we got a lot of emails.
We get to these emails.
Yep, we got a lot of emails. But update on the status of one of the key players in tonight's Creighton UConn game when we come back. And we will hear also from John Niatawa in the 5 o'clock hour.
Yes.
And it's One Beer Friday. And God, do I need it now.
Oh, yeah.
On 1620 The Zone.